Starting off the show, we'll be meeting up with Jamie Dockery with UK Extension Office, who's going to give us some tips for environmentally friendly lawn care.
It's late summer here in the bluegrass, and a lot of us aren't necessarily thinking about lawn care. We tend to think that's more of a springtime thing. But actually, mid-August through the month of September are some of the best times to get your lawn in shape and get on the track to not only having a healthier lawn, but maybe take an approach that's a little lower input, can keep some dollars in your pocket, and at the same time do things that are much better environmentally for our groundwater and the planet we all live on. So I want to talk to you today first about the type of grass. Since we are approaching that ideal seeding window, many of us will be thinking about seeding lawns. And we often think fall seeding should occur in October and the cooler parts of the summer, and that's actually not accurate. The optimum time, as I said, mid-August to mid-September, and the type of grass is critical. Here in Kentucky, probably the best lawn choice for grass is a turf-type tall fescue. There's dozens of varieties on the market. They're all good, provided you make sure you specify turf type. And turf-type fescue is superior simply because it's well adapted to our soils. It has great insect and disease resistant. It's very drought and traffic tolerant, so it's probably a prime candidate. It will grow in sun or partial shade. Need to be honest with you, no grass is going to grow in dense shade under trees and things like that. The turf-type fescue does have, if it has disadvantages, a couple of things might be that it grows very, very quickly in the spring and summer. Or in the early spring. It's a cool season grass, slows down in the summer, regrows in the fall, and that may cause a little bit of extra mowing on the front end. Once you've established a healthy fescue lawn, most of your other problems kind of take a back seat because weed control becomes less of an issue in turf that's very dense. Weeds simply can't compete, so getting the right grass is a step in the right direction. I want to talk to you a little bit about mowing too, because how we mow our lawns will help determine the other inputs and how healthy the grass is. Here we want to suggest to people for this low input approach that you set your mower deck, and not just the deck but the blade itself, at about 3 inches. For fescue lawns with a lower maintenance approach, 3 inches is a very good height. It's going to be a little longer than what most of us prefer, but it's going to be healthier for the grass. More leaf blade equates to more roots underground, and that makes for a much sturdier, healthier plant. Weed control can be an issue, and many of us are of the mindset that all of our fertilization and weed control are part of our spring routine. I want to challenge you to rethink the way you think about grass. Cool season grasses, which are predominant fescue and bluegrass options here in Kentucky, tend to do most of their growing in the early spring and the fall. We want to work our fertilizers so that it optimizes the beneficial growth while reducing the weed pressure and weed problems. So when we apply fertilizers in the spring of the year or into the early summer, we actually have residual nitrogen hanging around as the grasses are slowing down. This year they haven't because of the rain, but as the grasses slow down in summer, those nutrients then start to benefit things we don't want, things like dandelions and crabgrass. So we're going to suggest, as part of this low maintenance approach, you switch your lawn feeding to simply one feeding a year in the month of October. One time, 1.5 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Don't add any lime or anything unless you've had a soil test that indicates you need to, and that would be the best approach, to plan ahead and soil test in advance. Fertilize once in the fall. Your whole lawn care regimen can then simply consist of crabgrass preventer if you need it, and weed control as needed. Now those two items are generally attached to products that contain fertilizer, and we're going to apply them both in the spring and summer. We do not want fertilizer then, so you have to look a little harder, go out of your way to try to find products that do not have fertilizers in them to use for those two applications. Once we have got the turf up, established, and healthy, that mowing is going to help keep it down. When we apply the fertilizers in the fall, it's important to be mindful of how we apply them and when we apply them. The biggest concern we have is excess nutrients washing into storm sewers, ending up in our groundwater and contaminating a lot of the very water we depend on to drink and for our very existence. So when you apply, make sure you're not scattering fertilizer onto sidewalks, driveways, other hard surfaces, because when we get a pouring rain, that the granules of fertilizer we've put in those places are simply going to wash off, end up in the streets and storm sewers, and that's not a good thing. So be mindful of how and where you apply, but also try to watch the weather forecast. You really don't want to be applying fertilizers when there's a huge storm event or a heavy rainfall event predicted in the next couple of days. It takes a little while for that fertilizer to break down and be absorbed into the soil profile, so applying when there's not a heavy rain event expected will keep more of that fertilizer out of our groundwater supply. With a little bit, well actually with a lot less work, you can actually have a very nice fescue lawn in Kentucky. Most people are amazed how little effort it takes, and that all of the information we've all grown up with over the years about all of the fertilizer applications and all of the pesticides and things is simply not correct. Our cool season grasses are very easy to maintain. It can simply be a once-a-year fertilizer program, weed control as needed, and you're off and running. We've had numerous people who follow our low input lawn care publication come back and tell us that we've not only saved them hundreds of dollars from some lawn service they might have been utilizing, but they've got a much better looking lawn than they've ever had before. And along the way, we're doing wonderful things for the environment. So for a low maintenance lawn here in central Kentucky, a higher mowing height's desirable. We'd like to cut fescue lawns about 3 inches high, and that will help the grass have deeper roots and be a healthier plant overall. When it comes to mowing, our mower here for demo purposes has a bagger on it. We're going to suggest you not bag clippings. The grass clippings that we're cutting don't need to be sent to landfill. They can be composted provided you're not using herbicides. But aside from a few times in the spring when the grass is growing so fast it tends to get away from all of us, in that event, rather than leave clumps on the lawn, you might want to bag those clippings. The rest of the time of the year, you want to simply leave them in place. That doesn't necessarily mean a mulching mower, but those are wonderful. But you can also use a side discharge, blow the stuff out. Those grass clippings contain the exact same nutrients we would buy and apply later, but they simply decompose and make for a healthier soil. Lots of microbes benefit from the organic matter, and our grass is healthier because of it. Those same clippings also apply a lot of the nitrogen, sometimes even up to as much as 25%, I've seen research say. There's a misperception that leaving grass clippings on the lawn actually contribute to thatch problems. Thatch is rarely an issue here in central Kentucky, and it tends to be almost never a problem with fescue. Fescue is a clumping grass. We see more thatch in situations where we have something like bluegrass that's stoloniferous and you get a buildup of material near the surface. The other thing that contributes heavily to thatch is excessive nitrogen applications. So if you're on a regimen that has you feeding 2 and 3 times a year, you're much more likely to have a thatch problem. But in reality, if you're growing a fescue lawn, you're not likely to ever see thatch here. We rarely see it. It's just a buildup of organic matter, and when we return clippings to the lawn, they break down naturally, actually feed the organisms and things, earthworms and beneficials that would feed on the thatch. They're also eating our grass clippings. They're already there. You're not likely to have a thatch problem as a result of leaving clippings on the lawn. Just a little bit of re-education. If you need more information, you can go to our website or contact the Fayette County Extension Office, and we can provide you detailed information about how to do just that. It'll benefit your grass, it'll benefit the environment.